Timeouts, once again, a topic of conversation with Joe Mazzulla. I'll explain why he didn't use those timeouts. Plus, why didn't they use Kristaps Porzingis in ways that they said they would? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you every day, Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts every time they play on the weekend. So make sure you're subscribed everywhere you get your podcast. It's free. It's available on YouTube. Get into that comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm John Karalis. I played a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal and for you. Today, we're talking about, we're just revisiting that game in Minnesota. First loss of the season. We're going to spend basically 2 podcasts talking about it. But the execution issues, why didn't they use Porzingis the way I thought that they would down the stretch especially, and a lot of the timeout talk because people are talking about the timeouts. And we're going to be talking about it today with my guy, Tom Westerholm. Tom, how you feeling today?
What up? Feeling pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm always great. You know what else is great? FanDuel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150. If your team wins, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I wish FanDuel would have set a line on how many games into the season it would take for timeouts, Joe Mazzulla timeouts, to become an issue again. Spread throughout the comment section on the YouTube page. Spread throughout Twitter/X, spread throughout everywhere. With some sprinkles of fire Joe Mazzulla again. Oh, Joe cost us the game. Oh, the time. Oh, it's like, oh boy, yeah. So 6 games into the season, it feels about right.
It does. It's so funny, man, because I came out of that game like I've been probably accurately accused of being a contrarian at times in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be one here at all. Like I'm cognizant of the accusation. I recognize it. I see its validity, and I swear I'm not doing that here. I was kind of impressed by some of the stuff Joe Mazzulla did yesterday. Like some of his rotations I thought were really interesting. Yep. I liked the Tatum plus bench unit. I liked the way that, he put that together. I liked the unit that he then, I like the 1-2 punch of the Tatum plus bench unit, and then Tatum gets his rest, and then the group that he brings out is just nasty without Jayson Tatum. That's pretty cool. I liked I love his putting Drew Holiday on, Julius Randle and then Karl Anthony Towns and everything that did. I mean, I think he's I feel like I like a lot of the stuff I'm seeing from him earlier this year. So yeah, to just I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe I'm just not seeing what everybody else is seeing, but I don't know. I thought he was pretty good.
There's a cadence to timeouts, and people love to criticize timeouts because they see it, right?
It's very obvious.
It's very obvious.
Well, and yeah, you're right. The cadence is so important to that because you can feel it. There's
right.
Okay, this is gonna be where we call a timeout, and then there isn't one, and you're like,
why?
Yeah.
So it's 105-103. Conley hits a 3-pointer. All right. Jaylen Brown sets an illegal screen. Edwards comes down, hits a shot. 108-105. Okay, it's overtime. It's 2.5 minutes left. It's a 3-point game. Holiday misses a layup. Edwards comes down, pull-up jumper, 110-105, 2 minutes to go. People are like, that feels timeout-ish to me. Okay, Mazzulla's letting him play. Tatum takes a pull-up jumper. Not great execution. Edwards comes down. Boom, fadeaway. It's 112-105. Now you got to call a timeout and stop the momentum. Except they don't, and people are like, why? But yeah, look, Porzingis gets 2 free throws. He doesn't call a timeout. What people don't realize is he didn't call a timeout, and the Celtics score the next 4 points and cut it to 3. So What needed to happen was the McDaniel shot where Porzingis tripped. That needed to be the stop.
That needed to be
The stop. And like, it's on the team to execute. So in all of the craziness of the timeouts, people might say 110, 105, you call a timeout there. Maybe Edwards doesn't make it 112, 105 and whatever. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of interpretation. There's no way to argue against that necessarily, because it didn't happen and we don't know what would have happened. And there's randomness out of timeouts. We don't know that would have stopped the momentum. Timeouts get called all the time and the team comes out and continues on their run. Happens all the time. Yeah. So that is part of why he didn't call a timeout, and he has a strategy.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, to me, it's like, I feel like if you're calling for a timeout after the second Edwards bucket, it's almost already too late. It's like, the train is starting to leave the station a little bit at 110, 105. It's not like it's not gone, but like, if you're trying to kill momentum, I don't know. I mean, after the Conley 3 and then the first Edwards jumper, like like at that point, you kind of like, okay, I don't, as far as cadences go, right? Because cadence also kind of implicitly says eye test. As far as like the cadence eye test goes, it's like, that's when it starts to feel like, the Conley 3 is like ooh, yikes, they got the lead back. And then Edwards hitting a shot, target center's going crazy. Everybody's loving it. It's like that. To me, if you're going to call a timeout, that's where you do it. Once, I don't know, to me, the second Edwards bucket, it's like,
so
things got away.
The strategy is, okay, you're down, right? So now the strategy is, we're going to need to extend the game potentially at the end, and you're going to need to get up the court in a hurry in the end.
Yeah.
So you're already at a time. You only get 2 timeouts in the overtime. So keep that in mind. You only get 2. So there's a couple examples around the league from this season that I found that highlight Joe Mazzulla's strategy. One was Lakers Clippers overtime game. The Clippers burned both of their timeouts early. They had a bad challenge when Paul George fouls out. It was obviously a foul. They decided to challenge it because it's his 6th foul, and like, oh, maybe we'll get lucky, which is a dumb reason to challenge. But they burn a timeout in overtime when it's obvious on the replay, and they had time because he fouled out to make that challenge. It was obvious they shouldn't have done it. They burn a timeout. Now they lose one. Now then the Lakers go on a run and they do the momentum stopping timeout. So they're out of timeouts. It becomes a 3-point game with 40 seconds left. Okay. They don't have a timeout. 40 seconds left. Perfect opportunity to call a timeout.
Yeah.
Set a 2-for-1 play. You shoot the ball within 9 seconds. You get it at the half court. You shoot without, you shoot within the 9 seconds. You get a 2-for-1. It's a 3-point game. You only have to go for 2. You get the first best shot, foul, and then you can play the foul game. Maybe you can draw up a game-winning shot. If you have a second timeout, you can come back, and so you're playing the extend the game thing. No, they didn't have a timeout there. They didn't have a timeout. Christian Wood had a putback to put them up 5. There was 9 seconds left. They didn't have a timeout to call a desperation 3 there. They ended up losing that game. So they didn't have the timeouts to play the 2-for-1 game. Mavericks and Charlotte. It was not an overtime game, but in the last 3 minutes, you only get 2 timeouts. The Hornets call a timeout with 2:59 on the clock, which is dumb because you lose your timeouts. You only get down to 2 after 3 minutes. So they burn a timeout. They only had 1 left in a 4-point game. They had a shot clock violation. They call their last timeout, and then there's a 5-second call in the inbound. So they don't have a second timeout to save themselves from that. Even at the end, they didn't have a timeout to extend the game when it was a 4-point. So my whole point is, these are examples of Joe Mazzulla saying, like, I want to save my 2 timeouts for execution down the stretch. If you look around the league and the Celtics, Joe and Matt Reynolds told me that they spend time together watching the close games around the league. They watch these games. Yeah. They see they look at the Clippers and go, they didn't have any timeouts, and it cost them. They look at the Hornets, and they didn't have any timeouts, and that cost them. That was a game LaMelo Ball was going nuts. So keep that in mind when you're yelling at Joe Mazzulla. There are instances where that momentum stopping timeout is called. It's done nothing. And later in the game, when you need 2 timeouts to get yourself as many possessions as possible, that's there. That has to happen. The bottom line is the execution has to be there from the players. You have to not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
You have to find yourself good shots. You have to make the plays that you've drawn up in practice and know, like, this isn't like hold your hand time. This is the NBA. You should know these are the things we're trying to do. Jaylen Brown even said, this has been such a great preseason. We're working on end of game situations. We're working on the things that we need to do. Guarantee you the stuff that they worked on was not the stuff I caught myself that you were doing at the end of the game. Like that's where it comes down to. So it's not up to, like, yes, maybe in a playoff situation, maybe it's a little bit different, but the players have to make those plays. The players have to get that stop when Porzingis trips and falls. So Joe can use his timeout and maybe you can go steal this game. That's where that has to happen. So that's what I have to say on the timeouts.
Agreed. And also you could stop, which I think will probably lead us into some of the other stuff, but you could stop just going at Jaden McDaniels after he stopped you 100 times. Like you could just not go at him 400 times in a row and, lose the ball every time.
How about using Kristaps Porzingis?
A good option.
In a manner where it's the reason why you got him. Let's talk about that in just a second. First, today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy done right. No one's doing daily fantasy the way Prize Picks is, because this is you versus the projections. You're not going up against pros. You're not going up against sharks. You're going up against numbers that Prize Picks sets, more or less than the projections across all sports. And if you get them right, boom, you win. You get 2 to 6 players. If you get all 6 players right, you can get up to 25 times your money. So that's pretty good. Basketball and football, you want to marry them together like Reese's Pieces, chocolate and peanut butter? No problem. They have a specials league created specifically for combo projections. So you can go and pick Travis Kelce receptions and Jayson Tatum 3-pointers. And whatever that combination is, more or less, bang, you win. They've even got a reboot policy so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So in football and basketball games, if a player leaves the game in the first half and doesn't come back, the player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform that does this. They're the only one with injury insurance. So check them out. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA with a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out the Locked On NBA podcast. Jake Madison and I have today's show, and we're doing a big game of real or fake. Which team's success, which team's struggle, which player's success and struggle is real, which is fake? It's all on today's Locked On NBA podcast. So check that out wherever you found this podcast, also on YouTube. Tom, don't know if you noticed, but the Celtics have a new guy on the team. He's very tall individual.
Yeah. My 6-year-old was watching the game with me the other day, and he's like, whoa, number 8 is tall. Yeah, he is, buddy.
He is like legit tall. It's funny because the last practice before they left, he came over for the scrum, and he just towers. He's not as tall as Taco. Like Taco Fall was taller, but he feels taller for some reason. I don't know, because I don't know what it is.
I think you've forgotten Taco.
I might have forgotten.
Howard.
He's gigantic. He's gigantic. He feels, but either way,
but still.
So, but he's like what? Maybe he's like 2 inches shorter than Taco.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's just gigantic, and so he's like, maybe I should sit down, because he's like looking down at everybody, and like he's like, maybe I should sit. So he sat down for the availability, which is nice.
That is nice, and it's funny too, because it's not like the Celtics press corps. I mean, there's some taller people there. Like,
yeah, I mean,
you're tall.
I'm tall.
Jay's not short.
No,
like There's
No.
some, yeah.
There's some, but
Even still.
when Abby Chin is sitting there in the front row,
right.
like Abby sits in the front or stands in the front because you got TV cameras and she fits just under the lenses. So it's like very nice. Like all the shorter reporters get underneath there, and us tall people have to like reach with our big arms. Like, yeah, sure, I'll stand in the back like usual and just reach over the top. But anyway,
That's why I was appreciating Nicole. I could just kind of hand her my recorder.
Yeah,
really nice,
yeah. Anyway, so I mean, Porzingis could have pulled up a chair and watched a lot of the fourth quarter and overtime because he was kind of not really involved in a lot of that stuff. Now, I know that Rudy Gobert exists, so you're not going to post Kristaps Porzingis,
right?
But I'm looking at the film here, and I say, boy, the Celtics really missed an opportunity to use Porzingis. Instead of there's three options here. It's not just post them or space them. It's involve him,
yes,
and get Rudy Gobert kind of active and thinking and out away from the rim, and post. You can post Jayson Tatum, post Drew Holiday. Post go. You can calm down and play at your pace, even if you're trying to make a comeback. Play at your comfortable pace, execute, and still have the big Porzingis guy. Okay, so maybe he's more decoy than anything, but involve him.
Yeah.
Get him, make him a passer, make him a pick setter. They didn't do that nearly enough. Not nearly enough. And that's something that as they start to figure out their late game execution, and hey, I'm glad that they got a fourth quarter and overtime to really screw that up, because now they can look at the film and be like, oh, yeah, geez, why didn't we do that?
Especially against a team that good at defense. Like the Timberwolves are legitimate, like defensively. They are.
Yeah.
They're really good. Yeah. And like, I think, I mean, to your point though, right? Like, not only like, okay, like, give somebody else a chance to post up. Turn Gobert into the kind of defense, like into the kind of defender that he's bad at being, like utilize it, like drag him out, make him defend the pick and roll. He's bad at it. Like it's the way that people attack him every single playoff series. Like, make him work a little bit. And for the love of everything, like, stop attacking Jaden McDaniels in isolation. Cause like, that dude is good. And you're not going to beat him easily, and your offense isn't going to be efficient if you try to do that over and over and over again. I agree with you completely. I think it's important for the Celtics to have some of these games. I think it's important to have them early, and I think it's really important to have them after games against the Wizards and Pacers where everything was so easy. Like, in my takeaways last night, I compared it to, like, you've been eating good all day, like you've been having a lot of barbecue chicken, your Thanksgiving dinner, whatever it might be, and then you hop on the treadmill and you're just like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like that's what it looked like. They just looked like they got a little fat off the Pacers and the Wizards, and now here comes the Wolves, and it's just like, everything's harder. So I think it was important to have a game like that, to have an opponent like that, and to make some mistakes like that. And it's very early. It's too early for concern. Obviously, it's their first loss, and I think that learning opportunities at this stage in the proceedings are generally positive.
Yeah, it's funny to see Jayson Tatum laughing at the questions. I obviously I wasn't in Minnesota. I'm kind of curious as to why he found the question so funny. It was somebody behind Gary Washburn, like making like faces or something, or did he just go out there and be like, oh, I know what's coming, and then exactly what he thought was coming, and he just laughed. He could have pulled I don't know if you saw what Jokic did in Denver.
I did, yeah.
He came out and just ran the whole conference, and he just answered the unasked question. I know what you guys are going to ask, and then he's just like, yes, this, yes, that, yes, this, yes, that, and then he got up and he left. I'm like, okay, epic. It feels like Tatum could have done that too, but it showed how unbothered they were by it. They're like, okay, yup, I screwed that up. It's kind of like a hand up, my bad. Yep, I get it. I'm going to watch the film. No need to go over it. I understand. I sucked. I'm horrible. You know, you don't like my sweater, my hair's always a mess, whatever you want to say, like, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, and I have some issue with that because that's addressing things that nobody's actually asking him, right? Because nobody's actually saying like, "Hey, you stink." Everybody's, it's like, I don't know. The questions are kind of legitimate. Like,
Sure.
like sometimes, obviously, sometimes like questions get, kind of range into the cliche and whatever else. But it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, you guys gonna not attack Jade McDaniels so much next time? You guys,
Yeah.
like, okay, like, I still think it's a fair question to ask. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think it just speaks to like media and player, like players just don't.
that relationship is not healthy.
It's not. It's not.
It's
It's
not
not.
good.
It's not. I just don't think that they, and it's not, it doesn't need to be adversarial. And I don't think it's adversarial. Like in Boston, like I don't feel like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
adversarial
Yeah. For sure.
necessarily, but I also do get a strong sense of like, why do I need to do this? Why are you asking me any questions? I get the feeling like there's some level of like, yeah, dude, I had 6 turnovers. I'm aware that I had 6 turnovers. What do you want me to say? Which, just as an aside, it's like, look, man, we're all just doing jobs.
Yeah.
We're all just like, we're not trying to be jerks. Like,
Right.
we're asking questions because we got stories. We're stories to write. And we
And the story
can't,
of the game is that you turned the ball over 6 times, man. I
like,
don't know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is it. This is people want to know. People are asking like, oh, what went into those 6 turnovers? What were you seeing? What happened tonight that made it like 6 turnovers and not 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
here's a little secret. I don't want to ask those questions sometimes either.
No, for
Like,
sure. For sure. And look, and I get it, right? Like, yeah, it would really suck to have to just like get done. I mean, I get done with my shift and I'm like, okay, dude, I'm putting my feet up.
Right.
Like, yeah, and I'm sure that's what he wants to do because he had a tough night. He's tired. Like, totally valid. I'm not even saying anybody's in the wrong here. It's just like, yeah,
Right.
that's a big part of the problem is that the dynamic is like, bunch of people like trying to do their jobs and it's a little adversarial every once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm only speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of reporters out there who are like, they want to make a scene.
Of course.
Totally fair. And there are some players out there that want to make a scene.
Yeah.
Also, right? Like that just,
Yep.
just takes all kinds, right? I'm not going to say all reporters are this or all, but I'm just speaking for myself. There's when they play poorly, especially in a game like this, right? Early season stinker. And it's like, I know that it's like, it happens. It happens.
Totally.
So it's like, but I also have to write. I have 2 things to write and a podcast to do. And like, I'm going to try to ask the questions in a way. It's like, yeah, I know like this is going to happen sometimes, but when it's happening do you go back and think like we could have pulled out it if we'd done this or something like
Yeah.
try to like ask that. And sometimes guys are just like, no, it just happens. Some
Yeah.
night, like just like me, every once in a while, podcast is just like because it just happens. And if I had to talk about it afterwards, I'd be like, my brain's not working today. I'm sorry, brain hurty, and like podcasts suck. Speaking of which, we'll finish the conversation here because my brain is going to get hurt even more here if I don't tell people about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. There's a reason I got to tell you about FanDuel because it's awesome. FanDuel gives you, the new customer, if you're still like unsure, now's a great time because you go in, you join FanDuel at FanDuel.com/lockedon. You put a $5 money line bet down. If you win, they give you, on top of what you win, $150 in bonus bets. You can take those bonus bets, turn around and bet them on whatever you want there. Spreads, player props, over-unders. Super easy to use the app. Wide range of betting opportunities there. $150 if your team wins. So check it out. It's worth a shot. Cruise through the app. Check out all the different options. It's fun to put a parlay together and you say, okay, Jayson Tatum 3-pointers and Al Horford rebounds and Derek White assist. He's going to be back against Philly. So you just put them all together and maybe you can pile up a nice payout there. It's all at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Check it out here. FanDuel's the official partner of the NFL. The last thing that I'm going to tell you, that they have great tools if you want to just protect yourself, set some limits, set some boundaries, and they will help you with all of that with their tools, and it's going to help you gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out, check out the team podcast of all the teams that we're playing. Go check out what the Locked On Timberwolves was saying. Locked On Sixers is always a fun listen because they're coming off of, hey, look, the Sixers are good. Sixers are good. And after the Harden stuff, they're just celebrating over there. It's going to be a good game on Wednesday night there. And also, hey, check it out there on Sirius XM. You go to Sirius XM. The Celtics are playing the Sixers. You can catch it all there at on Sirius XM or on the SXM app, the local radio broadcast with Sean Grandy and all of that. It's on Sirius XM. So check it out there. You can't watch it on TV, or if you want to just listen to the audio over what's on TV, sure, go for that. It's on Sirius XM or the SXM app. All right, let's get Tom back on here. The execution, much like this podcast execution, was poor last night. I don't know what went into it, and I think this might be a case of they just really missed Derek White.
Yeah.
Because Derek White is more than Holiday, who stepped up great in Brooklyn, had a rough shooting night. Let me just rewind for a second. A good shooting night from Holiday, a decent shooting night or no foul trouble from Porzingis, or Derek White just playing.
Yeah.
Probably changes the dynamic of this Timberwolves game.
Yeah.
Again,
I think the Timberwolves deserve a lot of credit for making, everything hard offensively.
Absolutely.
But totally. Yeah, completely agree.
Absolutely. And so what I don't want, and I'm not concerned about this right now, but what I don't want is for Tatum and Brown to say, oh, well, KP's not feeling it. Drew's not feeling it. We got to do it. Because I feel like the one weakness that's still kind of there, it's just always going to be there. It's just always going to kind of be dormant. It's like shingles. You have it. It's just you're waiting for it to come out. And that's a very 50-year-old joke to make. You're just waiting for it to come out and just hurt you.
Yeah.
But it's always there and it's always underlying. And their just willingness to say, whoop, that other stuff's not working. Time to put on the cape and try to be the hero, when as great as Tatum has been playing, and Jaylen's been pretty good, but I'm putting the team on my back and just attacking one-on-one, that crap does not fly. I don't care how good anybody's been playing. You cannot go down the stretch of the fourth quarter and just say, I'm dribbling 20 times and I'm not even looking to pass. Cannot do that. And so even with Porzingis having a rough night and Holiday having a rough night, they are aware that they're having a rough night. They know that they can make other plays. Give it up. This is the trust. This is the trust that you're trying to build. Trust them. Give the ball up and find a way to get open again after that, and you'll get the ball back. Everybody knows how good you guys are. You'll get the ball back. So that's the thing that I just don't want out of this game. I don't want them to start being like, the instant everyone else on the team is less than great, that they say, okay, now you're getting nothing.
Yeah. I really don't have that much to add to that, because that's it, right? That's, to me, that was the biggest issue down the stretch. That was the biggest issue in overtime, especially the overtime period. That was when I think it was really, really stark. Yeah. And if you're Brad Stevens watching that game, there's got to be a small part of you that's like, come on, guys, this is, that was my whole offseason, was making this not be a thing. Please don't do this to me. And again, I think that's why, that's why you have some exasperation from the players post game. That's why, you couch everything with look, I promise I'm not worried about this, because yeah, this is going to take some time. There are habits that need to change. There are, just kind of ingrained things that players need to kind of adjust to. And I think they will. I think that, we've already seen like what Porzingis can bring to the table. We've already seen what Holiday can bring to the table. We've seen the improvements White makes when he's on the floor. Like, I do think these things will iron themselves out. But yeah, if you're, like that's the whole problem. And that was Brad Stevens' whole offseason. And, it was on pretty stark display last night. So yeah, if you're the Celtics, you got to do better at that, because that's kind of what killed you last year a little bit.
That's right. So all in all, I'm so glad that it happened against the Timberwolves. I really am glad that it happened against the Timberwolves, because there's less of the feeling of like, well, you're paying a real price for that lesson. West Coast team, like I said in yesterday's podcast. Nope.
West Coast.
I'm sorry. Western Conference.
This is the most coastal elite thing I've ever heard in my life.
I mean, everything past Worcester is West Coast.
West Coast, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry. Western Conference team.
Yes.
Western Conference team. Sorry. That was egregiously bad. I'm going to get asked about that in the post-game press conference, and I'm not going to like it.
You're going to be like, yeah, listen, I know I turned the ball over 6 times. I said Minnesota was West Coast.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just trying to get better every day.
I'm going to watch the film. I'm going to go back. I'm going to look. I'm going to see. I'm just going to try to get better. Yeah. So Western Conference team.
Thank you.
So there's no tiebreaker involved. There's no nothing. There's really no ramifications to losing this game. It's a loss. It's just every team loses. You're going to lose.
Yep.
Considering the season that everybody thought that this team was going to have, there's probably a couple dozen losses out there, and this is one of them. So tick it off. There's like 20 to 23 left, and that's more than fine. That's more than fine. If this is one of 20 losses, that's really good. That's going to be an amazing season. So I'm happy. At least it wasn't reversed. Like, I'd rather have them lose that than the Philly game. The Philly game is like, it's a nice progression. It's like, okay, you play Brooklyn, you go out to the West Coast and play Minnesota, and then
with waves lapping the shore.
I mean, you say, how could they not be like struggling there with all that time on the Pacific Ocean and the beach? The notorious Western Conference, Western Coast, yeah. And so you spend so much time out there, of course you're going to have a tough game. And then going to Philly, I think that's a nice regroup. It's kind of like a nice, all right, we got it. We screwed up, stubbed our toe, whatever. And now you got to go out there and kind of prove yourself again. And what better way to prove yourself than beating the doors off of the Philadelphia 76ers?
Who are also playing pretty well. Yeah.
Also playing, like, I think the Sixers are, like, they haven't beaten a lot of great teams. I don't think anybody's beaten a lot of great teams.
Well, the Timberwolves have.
Except for the Timberwolves, yeah. But, yeah, I think it's going to be great. The Sixers, they're going to be tough to stop. But I don't know who guards Tatum, who guards Jaylen Brown. It's going to be a good one. So
for sure.
All right,
that'll be a fun game. And I mean, I agree. Like the Timberwolves are a good team. You're on the road. I think you're trying to run on the treadmill after all that barbecue chicken. I think there were a lot of stuff that that kind of worked against them a little bit. So yeah.
Oof. Just the thought of running on a treadmill. That's painful enough for me right now. Can I walk? Can I walk briskly on the treadmill?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like every study that comes out right now is like about how good walking is for you. So yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's great. I look forward to exercising that. Anyway. All right. Bye, Tom.
All right. Later, man.
Time to wrap up the show. Thank you, everybody. I will be back for the posts. Like I said, I've been saying, if you listen to the last podcast, I'm podcasting every day but 2 for the rest of this month. So I'll be back post game Philly. I'll be back for the Thursday night, and then home games Friday, Saturday, Brooklyn and Toronto. I'll be podcasting after both of those games as well. So make sure you're subscribed. And all next week, oh man, so many podcasts. So you got to be subscribed so you can get all of these dropped directly to your device. Or you can watch a show on YouTube. Get into that comment section. Let me know what you think about what I've said. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you think I'm wrong? Whatever it is, tell me in the comment section on the YouTube page. And I would love it if you everydayers, you regular listeners, you regular watchers who are with me every damn day, I appreciate you all. I'd now love it if you share the podcast, spread the word, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.